Valve's crackdown has begun. I think this is in regards to AI.
Welcome back to the news. Valve seem to be blocking a bunch of AI-related game stuff, and we have loads of really fascinating stories. I mean, hey, the prospect of a 60 frames per second Bloodborne is contained within this video. Pretty damn hype. To get into our first story, though, it is Valve and artificial intelligence. So, Simon Carlos, who's a writer, surfaced some really interesting news, and that is that Valve seems to be taking steps to block new games that feature a lot of AI content creation. So, this came from a Reddit user called...
Probably because of copyright issues, probably because AI is taking shit from other people that's rightfully theirs, and they don't want to be involved legally, you know, because we're in the very beginning stages of AI. I think that's one of the reasons why Valve doesn't want to get caught with their pants down legally and pay out millions of dollars.
Dr. Harry97, who posted what they claim to be redacted screenshots of emails from Valve. And it basically claims that they have identified intellectual property in the application build that they submitted to Valve that Valve believes may be belonging to a third party, where essentially Valve are arguing here that they need to know that the ownership, basically the ownership sources of all of the AI generated content in the game, so that basically the creator is going to have to prove that all the art in their game it's an AI that is trained on their own material. So if you're using Midjourney, that's obviously not trained off your own material, meaning, yeah, you can't. Now, there are studios, there are tech companies that are working on basically AI where you can submit your own stuff. Now, that I think is really ethically a far better situation to be existing in than the one where it's just, you know, the Midjourney grifters. Things like that, I mean, can be a fun tool to play around with, but I think then when it turns into the grift and all of that, then you really start to get into those issues.
Right, DEFCON,
I think within the industry, most of the things that people would be excited about, like AI for, it's stuff like UV unwrapping. All of that, you know, that stuff in, like, say, 3D modeling that is just grunt work that nobody enjoys, but you've got to do. Or maybe helping make a texture tile. That sort of thing. Tools rather than just, ooh, the magic box did 85 people's jobs and we can fire them all. That's pretty much what nobody wants. To go back to Valve, I think a lot of people will...
But that's actually what's going to happen, unfortunately. This whole space is going to get revamped. AI is going to really fuck a lot of people's jobs up, man. Like, you know, I hear a lot of economists on CNBC telling you how great it is going into this AI revolution, that it's going to be a golden age and all this stuff. And okay, maybe, yeah, it's going to make corpos more money. It's going to put more money in the lining of the pockets of the corpos. It's going to make businesses more streamlined, more profitable, but it's not going to help the middle class. Don't for a second think that AI is going to help the middle class, man. You got to adopt this AI now. You got to figure it out. You got to learn how to use it as a weapon. So like if you're in the middle class right now, I highly recommend that you guys start realizing how to use AI to your benefit, because everyone else around you is doing that. And in the meantime, this decay of the middle class continues to happen, and AI is really just going to speed that up. AI is going to take a lot of jobs away because corpos don't want to pay for the expense of a human being. And that's just the way it's going to go, unfortunately.
Be happy at this news, right? They don't really want an encroachment of these things into their games.
Right,
but
right.
As Dominic, as a journalist, points out here, they've handled this in a way that is the bad side of Valve. As in, there hasn't been an officially communicated policy update. People don't exactly know what's going on. So, as he says, there's no publicly announced policy. There's no specifics. In this case, somebody failed a vibe check. And there are other games that are using some, like, AI-assisted, like, assets, like High on Life, like Firmament, like Hawken Reborn, which, of course, we talked about in the channel a while ago, because, whoa, that looks really rough. Those have been fine. Did Valve send emails to those developers and get everything, thumbs up? Who knows? Right? And I think that's the thing where ultimately developers and publishers and everybody would just like to have a clear policy position actually be laid out for us.
It's going to be
As
messy.
for Valve's perspective in this, honestly, I think they don't really care humongously themselves. I'm sure people at Valve will, but what they probably don't want is copyright notices and strikes on their store, because that's just a headache
exactly
for them,
it.
and they'd
Litigation.
probably rather not deal with that headache. In the same
They're going to have it. They can't help but to have it. They're just going to have it. That's going to have it. This is a messy period of time in terms of technology, in game dev work especially. I mean, AI is going to extend through this like a plague to people who have a job in this, and it'll be like an amazing thing for the corpos. Corpos are going to make a lot of money off of this, man. But like, it's going to be messy, and Valve's going to get sued regardless. They're going to get sued regardless. Like, it's just messy.
Same way that regarding a bunch of crypto stuff, evidently, like, you think about Valve's sort of little libertarian spirit. There's a part of that totally does fit a lot of crypto, right? Like the decentralization, all of that. But ultimately, they've just realized, like, no, crypto's a pain in the ass. We don't want crypto games. Can you imagine how much of a headache that would be for us as store owners? So I think ultimately Valve are doing what's in their best interest here. It does happen to align.
Most Web3 games won't be offered on any type of platform that's similar to Valve. It's just not going to be that way. You're going to go directly to a site and download it if you're into Web3 gaming. Star Atlas is an example of that.
I think with what a lot of consumers would want. And speaking of something that's got absolutely no AI in it, for the promo of today, it's not a sponsor, it's us with The Pale Beyond, which currently is on the Steam Summer Game is on which role-playing, because one of the shit. And David, I pretty much goes into making. With that said, let's talk about gamers now.
Bellular News is a good channel. I happen to like this channel. I've watched it on occasion, but man, the show's ridiculous.
Network and Geo Media, who are taking on the AI path. Oh, this is what we want. So, Gamers Network, they own Upcomer, Prima Games, Twinfinite, The Escapist, Destructoid, and fresh off a round of 50 layoffs in March, they have got a new job role, an AI editor for 40 to 55,000 USD that can be remote in the US. It's a full-time role, and they'll be working with AI content and SEO strategists to finalize work.
Dude, what in the fuck? They're only paying 40 to 55,000 for somebody involved in AI, which is possibly one of their most important like arms to their business, and like that is such a cheap wage to be paying out for somebody that's going to be responsible for making you tons of money.
Flow and production of AI created content. Oh boy, the expected output of is about 200 to 250 articles a week while working alongside their AI content and SEO strategist. They're essentially, essentially you're basically like, hey, article every 10 minutes, and that'll be $5 an article. If you actually work those things out.
It's like me door-dashing.
This how you get incisive, smart news that actually involves real journalism, us finding out new truths? No.
That's one thing that AI is going to be lackluster on, is like hard-hitting journalistic approach to anything that's critiquable, if that's a word. So like I expect that you're going to be able to spot very easily AI articles on just about anything critiquing any genre that's out there to talk about. So that is one good thing. I think eventually AI is going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to realize it, and that it will be just as hard hitting, but it's going to take some time, possibly not as much as we all think.
Oh, I mean, look, if you want to be like old school joystick and you just, well, if you remember joystick, I mean, that's going back a good few years now. But anyway, if you just want to go to the company's press center, take their press release, copy it, put it into the AI, give it a sample of your, your publication's like speaking voice, and just say, hello, could you style?
Yeah. Until it becomes aware. Right. The singularity. Right. And that's called the singularity. And that's absolutely correct. Erad, this is why you're my friend, dude. This is why you're my friend, man.
I'll match this press release with this, which is an example of how I type. The AI says, yes, I will do that. And there you go. An article. Amazing. What value creation for us to have. Isn't it amazing that all of this true, real value is being created? Oh, great. I love Sludge.
There's still hope for us.
Absolutely love Sludge. You know what? Just go straight to the source and go to like Business Wire, I suppose. So this is an attitude that is focused on volume, not quality of the work.
Man, come on, that track's fire. That track's fire. Thank you, DEFCON, for gifting Erad the sub. That's nice, bro. Thank you.
One of those things, I think they know that even if they decrease like the average impact of one of their articles, if they can get far more articles out there, overwhelm the SEO, stuff like that, then that'll be interesting. But here's what I am thinking. So for Google, this shit is a bit of a problem. Right? There's
a bit.
I mean, number one,
a lot.
The signal-to-noise ratio of their searches will be worse. And, there's some worries that maybe the more we're having AI content, the more that can, I suppose, sidestep some of Google's advertisement-based stuff. I mean, it depends.
Well, they're already breaking their contractual agreements with their clients. We did a story about that on the channel last week. You can check that out on DG360 about how they're screwing over their clients, including the Wall Street Journal, Microsoft, some big corpo names where they basically it's shady. You got to check out that piece. It's crazy what Google's doing right now. But Google's relying heavily on Bard, and Bard is their AI program, and I think that it's a smart move. I think it's the only move. Honestly, it's the only move. If you're a Google, you're realizing that your search that built you up, basically made you what you are, is starting to crumble. You have to pivot. You have to quickly pivot over to the AI renaissance that's happening. And that's why they're relying heavily on Bard. You are going to see a lot more information on Bard, a lot more coverage on Bard. I'm already getting it in my feed a little bit. I've dabbled here and there on what Bard is, how it is so very human in its responses. It's really kind of eerie. Bard has very interesting responses that ChatGPT does not, and almost comes off more human than ChatGPT. But there's this term, and I can't remember what it is, like something AI ghosting. I can't remember exactly what it is. But what it is, Bard actually picks up false facts and prints them as such as if they are truth, and they are not. So AI has this really weird flaw. Bard, which is Google's AI, has this really weird flaw where it's actually putting down answers that sound like they're legit, but when you fact check it, they are not, which is really strange. But the thing that's even more strange is Bard seems to have more human kind of feeling to its responses than other programs, which I find a little creepy.
If the site that is pumping out all the shite does happen to be using like Google AdWords. But anyway, I would wonder though, do you remember the Penguin update for Google? I think it was Penguin.
What's up, Luigi?
This happened many years ago,
Good to
but
see,
it
bro.
totally changed how page ranking worked. And a lot of businesses just exploded overnight because suddenly all their search volume was gone. But I do wonder if Google will maybe start to see a downside as more companies go like this.
They will.
And perhaps Google will start to run some of its own like AI detection stuff. That said, if they do try to police that, that is a whole crazy can of worms. But anyway, this is not particularly amazing. Now, this also is right in line with the Kotaku owner, GeoMedia,
Don't get me started
launching
with
a bit of a plan to do some AI content testing across their sites.
Maybe
This, of
the
course,
AI could not like make a hit piece after hit piece. Maybe the Kotaku AI. Maybe the Kotaku AI won't employ bullshit, shitty, journalistic hit pieces one after the other and actually start writing better than the journalists there at Kotaku. Yeah, that's a burn. Yeah, that's a burn. Take that one to the bank, Kotaku.
Sparked outrage from the
What's up,
GeoMedia
Just
union that
here,
represents the staff,
Welcome home,
because this announcement also, of course, followed layoffs. So isn't that
Love
great?
seeing the content
okay.
you're putting out
speaking
there. Keep it up,
speaking of bizarre things, hey, Ubisoft blockchain game, hell yeah! Yeah, turns out this is still happening in the year 2023. This game is called Champions Tactics Grimoria Chronicles, and it is their first blockchain game. It's been announced, and yes, it basically invokes really the trappings of a tabletop tactics game. The description is that it's a PvP tactical RPG experimental game on PC. They say experimental, which basically means, yeah, if this is a total shit show, it's fine. We only said it was an experiment. But of course, this is a collaboration.
What's up? Let's go easy. Welcome to the fam. Grab your chicken soup. Just do it. Don't question why. Get in the ring. Have some fun with us.
With recurring character in this channel for the last year, Oasis, which is the same blockchain group that is behind Square Enix's Symbiogenesis thing, as well as Sega's NFT plan. So ultimately, this isn't a core Ubisoft thing. This is just something that they're continuing, to go along with. I don't have much in the way of hopes. Okay, next then.
Great, Dave.
Normally,
thanks for asking, bro.
Games get delayed to avoid a big release. In this case, though, Baldur's Gate 3 is actually coming out way sooner. It was going to come out...
Yes, sir! You're not gonna hate me!
Man, Baldur's Gate. Don't even get me started on Baldur's Gate.
The 31st of August. Now it's coming out on the 3rd of August, except in the PS5, where they're going to need another week to basically confirm 60 FPS stability on the PS5. Pretty interesting then. Dave. They announced a host of launch day content updates, including a significant amount of customization options, a promise of 170 hours worth of cutscenes across the whole game, and more cinematic dialogue than 3 times all 3 Lord of the Rings novels combined.
What?
Which I'm sure is both in some ways a good thing and in other ways maybe less good of a thing.
What?
Anyway, in terms of saying the quiet part out loud, do you know why it's not in the Xbox? Because it's the S. We need to ensure the game is performing without compromise across the entire Xbox X and S ecosystem in multiplayer and split screen. They say they'll update as soon as they can, but yeah, that seems to be the reason. As much as the Series S may have been a play for market share from Team Green, ultimately, do they have the market share? No. And is the Series S proving to be a thorn in the side of AAA developers, especially the multiplats? Yeah. Wonder what they're going to do about that. I mean, in terms of bare metal raw power, I'm fairly sure that the Series S is less powerful than the more powerful version of the Xbox. Yeah, the Xbox One X.
Just talking to Brennan about this the other weekend.
So you do end up, I think, with this weird situation where in a few years, people will be developing for a console that in terms of pure horsepower was essentially out of date when it launched. That's going to be a tricky proposition, and I have to wonder if Microsoft will be left having to yield on some of their principles there. Next, then, we've got some gaslighting. Oh, I love some gaslighting. What? Call of Duty's kernel-level anti-cheat is not perfect. It is, of course, a constant struggle to keep cheaters out of the game. This time around, they've been trying to mitigate cheaters by having hallucinations.
We're going over this
by having hallucinations. Not what you'd expect to see, but here's the deal. Look at this screenshot. One of these is real, one of them is not real, but can only be seen by the cheater. And basically, it is based on an active player in the match. It mimics their behavior, and it basically means that if the cheaters, let's say they're using an aimbot, if their aimbot is constantly locking on to a hallucination character that isn't there, then, I mean, there you go, right? That's the cheater identified. So this is kind of...
Yes, sir! You're not gonna hate me!
kind of funny. I'm not sure how they get it so that the hallucination only appears for the cheat player, but I mean, if they're rolling this out, they clearly have a solution worked out. Honestly, I think that's really cool, and I love very visual, visceral anti-cheat measures, such as the various NPCs that would troll you in RuneScape. That's one good example, and the invincible scorpion in Serious Sam 3, where if it was a pirated version, there'd be an invincible scorpion that you couldn't defeat. Okay, our final story then. As long as you are Lance McDonald, a prolific games modder, you can play Bloodborne at 1080p 60 FPS on a PlayStation 5. Yes, that's what it is. There's no announcement of how this is done, but what we do know is that the madman has actually done it. And here it is. It is Bloodborne, and it looks pretty damn good. Of course, Bloodborne is a game that really did perform. It's a marvelous game, but it had a very ropey performance. It also had extremely bad frame timing issues. Everyone in the universe knows that this remaster will print money. I suppose, we'll probably cover this formally soon, but I know it wasn't the South Korean, ratings agency, didn't they, leak Red Dead Redemption Remastered? And it's one of those games that if they did it, everyone would buy it. It's just like this. So come on. I mean, get the people who did, and I know this would be a large project because it was an incredible piece of work, but the Demon Souls remaster. Could you imagine if Bloodborne got the Demon Souls remaster treatment? That would be the most incredible thing. Oh, it'd be so exciting. So that is that. If you want to support us and also get some video game content,
right, there we
you're
go.
looking at like 8 hours.
Interesting what the algorithms you are finding here on DG360, and I super appreciate everybody that makes this signal very strong. Keep it strong all day long.